Welcome to the Unstoppable Joy Podcast, the show where faith meets functional medicine and healing runs deeper than surface level fixes. I'm your host, Kathryn McAdam, a board-certified family nurse practitioner, functional medicine provider, speaker, best-selling author, and co-creator of the Empowered Method. After walking through trauma, burnout, and homelessness, I had gained over 70 pounds. It wasn't until I discovered that true healing isn't just about diet and labs. It's about aligning your body with biblical truth and reclaiming your divine design. Now I help Christians just like myself to restore energy, rebalance hormones, and heal their gut so that they can step boldly into their God-given calling, body, mind, and spirit. Here you'll find root cause strategies, powerful testimonies, biblical insight, and a whole lot of joy, because your healing isn't just about you. It's about the legacy you're called to carry. And joy isn't a side effect. It's a strategy, and it's time to take it back. So let's get started. Today, I have a special guest with me. Her name is Tamra Andress. She is a keynote speaker, an 8-time best-selling author, founder of the Founder Collective, and host of the top-ranking Messenger Movement podcast. She equips faith-first leaders to live fully in their God-given calling with kingdom strategy and spirit-led boldness. Her book, of one of many that I resonate with, and I was actually part of the Joyful Entrepreneur with her, the volume 2, but her book, Always Becoming, her story is just raw and real and so impactful for so many of us that are hustling and trying to do all the things and find ourselves coming up short in the redemptive work that God can do in that situation. We were just talking about ripping off Band-Aids. I'm hoping that this isn't too painful for all of us, right? Because we all have raw edges, right? We have things that we're like, oh my gosh, Lord, I thought I was done dealing with that. I just thank you so much for being here and being a part of my podcast and a part of my journey. So welcome.
Yeah, it's an honor. Thank you so much, Kathryn. I'm processing. Even when I wrote those words for Always Becoming, I'm like, I need rendition edition number 2, Still Becoming, because we really always are, which is why I love that title so much. It stuck with one of my friends who's a pastor and fellow pastor of Founder Collective. And he sent me a message on Sunday morning. He's like, hey, I'm using your book title for my sermon series today. I'm like, let's go. It's all about the reveal of a new season, and they're changing the name of their church. I'm glad it resonates with people because there's grace connected there, but there's also movement. And sometimes people will take the grace message so much to heart that they'll stop. They're like, well, God loves me. And yes, he does, but God wants to operate and flow with you. And I've watched you do that even since Joyful 2 and release of that, just watching what God has done with this next message that's connected to the same thing and how you get to help other people. So I'm excited to be here and dually support you.
Yes. Well, I just resonate so much with your story of coming to the end of yourself and being like, okay, God, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way forward. And you talk so much about feeling empty on the inside. On the outside, you look like you got it all together. So what was the moment that you realized that something had to change?
For me, and this was nearly 10 years ago, which is wild to think of that decade date coming up. It will happen officially in April of next year. And so much has transpired in those 10 years. Other hard points, other points of tension, right? Like it doesn't all of a sudden you have a revelation. Everything's back to glitters and glam. But since this one particular revelation, which was this grind culture, this hustle culture, this perfection driven society, accolade driven society that we live in, success is all of these exterior things. And I had hustled so hard to achieve those things by a mere age of 29. I stepped out of my marriage. In that infidelity, it was rattling when my husband found out. I had 2 operating huge businesses at that time and 2 kids under the age of 2. It was a forced quit when I had the option, because we all do. We have the light or the dark option every single day. It's like the angel and the devil that sit on our shoulders. Those cartoons aren't just cartoons because it's a reality of our spirit and our flesh and the enemy, which is a trifecta, coming after us on a consistent basis. I recognize all of these different parts of myself were out of alignment, which is our kind of connection word. The things that we do now. I had a choice and I chose what I believe is the better path, the more fruitful path, the one that required me to quit it all, start anew. am I and what does this look like? What does life get to be? Not does it have to be, or what has someone forcibly projected it needs to be?
When you get to that point where you're just like, okay, wake up call, right? This is my sins have found me out because I've been there too,
Yeah,
right? Where you just like, okay, God, like this is incredibly painful. And it's like we in the natural are like, where's the easy button?
please. If
Where's the
there's
easy
one,
button?
let me know. Send it my way. I'll shout my
Yeah.
address out.
Yeah, we all want that, right? We're all looking for
Yeah.
the easy way. But, somebody recently said to me, the blessing is in the trial.
For sure. For sure.
And what do those words mean to you?
Well, it's like the only way out is through. The refiner's fire is like you don't get to be shaped or molded to become more like Christ outside of the fiery flame. That's just what it is. Trust is developed there, humility is developed there. Those are the places where I've learned what intimacy actually means, not just into me, I see, or you see, which is the connection of my marriage being reestablished, but also what do I look like and what do I feel like when I look in the mirror? The one day tombstone moment that we're going to have is really what hit me upside the head at that decade milestone point. I had just like this blank stare of what was there, and all it said was entrepreneur. And I think so many of us take the accolades of our life and project them as the thing that's most important, and it's generally the least important. I just went to a funeral this past weekend, a celebration of life. He had unfortunately taken his life. And I processed as they talked about the memories and they showcased these videos of him with all of his kiddos and his wife. And I thought, oh my gosh, like the littlest moments are the most profound moments. They're the biggest moments when we are no longer here. And so those big things that we want to carry as the awards, as we want to showcase, or the mask that we want to wear, those things are actually all suppression mechanisms to the most important part, which is when we're alone, what does our life look like?
Mhm. And so many. It's like we have shiny objects,
Yeah,
we're all just like, oh, well, look at that. Well, look what they have. And it's
totally.
like when the Lord is just calling us to that quiet, that stillness. And it's a lost art,
Right.
the art of being still.
Yes, it's the Sabbath rest from a health perspective. We cannot run at this high cortisol, constant dopamine hit. It's like addicted society. The reasons we're addicted is because we're trying to suppress all of these things that are our reality so that we can live a happy life. But happiness is not necessarily joy, and fruitfulness is not success. It's these places of restfulness where you realize the world is still evolving. God is still moving. Even if I decide today I'm going to kick my feet up and just watch my kiddos laugh and play and be in the water, we don't have to be the ones driving everything forward into this place of significance.
Yeah. I remember so many stories in the Bible where everything was going wrong. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't anything that anybody had done. It was God coming through. He gets all the glory. It's not like what we did. And I think about Hobby Lobby and Chick-fil-A and how they take that Sabbath day of rest. It's healing, letting your nervous system chill out for a day. But it's also resting in the Lord and saying, okay, God, the outcome is in your hands.
Yeah.
It's out of my hands, and I surrender that to you. I surrender my busyness. I surrender my striving, and I'm going to rest with you today and rest with my family. And that obviously is one thing that we teach in my practice. It's so important. And I think, like you said, it's something that we take for granted. Like it's kind of fallen out of like, uh, you know, it's like it was a fad for back then, right?
Yeah, completely.
It's
And I
just like,
think if we could make that trend, that would be amazing. It's kind of like the sober living trend is going around a bit. And I'm like, man, that's a great trend. We've been almost 8 years sober. And those were things that were happening during the tension of desiring something more out of life and realizing and taking that personal assessment of what am I putting in place of what could be really fruitful? And generally speaking, it's these dangling marketing tactics that the world presents to you. Like you said, the shiny light syndrome. And it's something that's become normalized. For me and my husband, alcohol was something that was so normalized since our childhood. It's like, what is everybody doing? Oh, they're all going to a brewery. And it's no offense to alcohol per se, but it's the knowledge point of why and how much and how frequent and for what purpose. And if that's the mechanism that makes you comfortable with your spouse or makes you more energetic or lively with friends, is that really what I need? Or is that just what I'm using as a lubricant to my life? I actually want to experience even the feelings and experiences of grief, of heartache, of trial, like you talked about, which I've come out of even just in this last year, nearly a decade later, watching my husband walk through that catastrophic revelation and me then having the staying power because of the work that I've done to be able to sustain with and for him, just like he did for me a decade ago.
Hmm. Wow. It's so powerful. When we invite God into our story, it's not just like, oh, well, this happened to me. It's like God moved. God took what was a shambles and an ash heap and made something so incredibly beautiful of it. I just love that about your story. I love how you are so candid about it. And you talk about these three things the church often avoids: sex, shame, and love. And you go there. Why did you feel called to share your story in such a way?
Yeah, specifically the sex piece was really important to me. One, because I think we as women, like we live in a sexualized culture from the time we're born. That was also the same time that I had been exposed to everything that had been happening in the sex trafficking and child trafficking industry and the beauty industry at large. We as women, we put ourselves in these very vulnerable spaces. People use vulnerable as a powerhouse word, but there are vulnerable situations that we can find ourselves in that are actually penetrable, meaning people can actually come in and affect us. There's trauma that takes place in those places. When I went through therapy for the very first time, I sat on that couch that everybody wants to avoid. It was the first time I had ever even thought about mental health. I was just driving because I was capable of it and I had capacity for it. But if you think about it, not really. If those are the things that I was walking out in my life from an integrity perspective. About 3 sessions in, my therapist was like, hey, have you ever heard of this book, No Stones? And I'm like, no. And she's like, do you have a sex addiction? And I was like, no. I had, premarital sex. For those who are walking out the Christian faith, don't judge me. I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she's like, okay, well, I want you to read this book. So I started reading this book. I was about 3 chapters in and I dropped to the floor in fetal position. All of these memories that I had suppressed from the time I was 3 years old on, surrounded by sexual traumas. I knew at that moment that this was not mine to carry and that more people needed to know about it because it had affected everything I did as a woman. Every relationship I had, even friendships with males and females. I was definitely like the guy's girl and I like championed that. But it's actually not a good thing to be a guy's girl. That means that you're out of touch with your femininity. It likely means that you're trying to put on a facade, and women make you uncomfortable because they're vulnerable, because they're emotional, because they carry things that are sometimes these heavy things like we're talking about, and they're willing to take that space. So that specifically meant a ton to me. And I knew it needed to be something that I was not going to hold on to. The shame piece is what kept me in the secret and in the dark for so long. And I think it does for everyone. It's like after I wrote this book, I tell people when you write it out and it's all there for everybody to read, your shame now sits on a bookshelf and you no longer have to be the one to carry it. So if someone wants to call me out, if someone wants to point fingers, if someone wants to be really nosy and curious, I'm like, oh, here you go. Here it all is. Again, still becoming, I need the next decade book. A lot has transpired since then. I process that out for people and I'm like, what are they carrying that they've yet to release? More often than not, especially through retreats and things that I host, I get the opportunity to discover those things and be a safe place, like a harbor point for people to release. And we pass it to Jesus' feet. I surely can't do anything about it. Just like you do through the medical practice, let's take all the symptoms, all the shame, the baggage, and put it at the feet. From that place on, we can heal. There's an opportunity for that last word, sex, shame, and the only capital word worthy of capitalization is love, because his love is what sustains us. His love is what frees us. His love is what takes us to this new level of living life abundantly. Without it, it's not possible.
So I with the shame part. I too, as a believer, young Christian or young woman, fell into sexual sin and carried that. Even though I had brought it to the feet of Jesus and I accepted his forgiveness, I carried the shame and thoughts like, no man's ever going to want me. I'm damaged goods, like the whole spiel constantly going through my mind. After I had that encounter and walked away from that relationship, I didn't date anybody for 7 years because I
Wow.
was so shut down. I can't handle this part of my life.
Yeah.
And those negative thoughts. So often, we as believers, I talk about the nocebo effect. We all know what a placebo effect is, right? It's that fake pill they give you to see if you're really just thinking that you're better and not really benefiting from the medicine. But the nocebo effect is when someone says to us, there's no more hope. You go to the doctor, they give you that report like there's nothing more that can be done for you, and you only have so many weeks to live. And when people get that kind of report, they shut down. They internalize that and give up. And so many believers in the church have been playing those nocebo thoughts, those lies that the enemy seeds into our heart. And we believe them and act on them. And we're in agreement with the devil because we're believing these nocebo thoughts. It messes with our cortisol level because your brain is, all these negative thoughts, your body is responding to that in a cortisol level.
We're in a fight or flight. We never have, like you said, that rest or Sabbath feels so uncomfortable because all you've ever done is fought or fled.
I had to come to a point where I was going over these nocebo thoughts in my head, like, no man's ever going to want me. I'll never get married. I'll never be happy in a relationship. I opened my Bible before my morning devotions and my eyes fell onto Acts 10, where Peter sees the sheep being let down. And he hears this voice saying, Peter, get up, kill and eat. And he's like, no, Lord, I've never eaten anything unclean. And it happens. He sees it 3 times, and 3 times the Lord says to him, stop calling what I have made pure unclean.
So good.
And when those words, when my eyes hit those words, it was like something broke in me. I've been calling myself impure all this time. When he has made me clean, I brought it to the feet of Jesus. I've asked for his forgiveness. I just couldn't forgive myself. And when I realized that, it was kind of a double message because my name, Kathryn, means pure. So every time someone calls my name, it's his reminder to me that I'm pure.
Wow, Kathryn, that's incredible. I mean, and what a daily reminder. And there's even that renaming that the Lord does biblically. It's like you got to reclaim and be renamed in that moment. And like just a constant reminder. And that's how good God is. So intentional. Even if my name is from The Price is Right, my mom got it a week before I was born and was like, Tamra, come on down. So I was like, made for lights and cameras and action, right? I'm like, thanks for all the thoughtfulness, Mom. I love my name. I'm so grateful. But it wasn't until 2 years ago that I went down the rabbit hole of what my name and where it from. To be honest, Kathryn, similarly in the nocebo effect, I had been like, oh, it's just like a different shift to Tamar. And in the Bible, Tamar, it has sexual sin and she's like, dirty and she's been used. And so I was always like, gosh, my name, even though I loved my name, I just couldn't ever have an affinity towards it. And so I went down this rabbit hole of figuring out what my name means. And it actually means palm. And so when I think now, every time, first off, I have an infatuation with palm trees. I love anywhere that's a palm tree. I want to be there. And so I'm in a palm tree state of mind. I tell people all the time, and I'll have images of it. I'll have pictures in it. Actually, my first office for my business, I wrapped the entire pillar as a palm tree so that even though I was inside in an office and had no palm trees around me, this is where I was going. My sights were on the palm tree. And I think of Hosanna and I think about like literally like save our souls, Lord. Like I get to be someone who waves the palm for people and reminds them to point to Jesus. Like this is why we wave our palms is for him. And that what he did for us on the cross is the ultimate sacrifice of love. And so to be a display of that, I mean, we both have this nature of, yes, the purity, and we can walk in purity as his people, as his children today. And there's no exception to that. So no SIBO, that doesn't happen for you. There's no exception because all of his promises are yes and amen. And so just literally shifting that no to a yes and finding out scripturally Who does he call me? What does he call me? And if he calls us free, and he calls us beautiful, and he calls us wonderfully made, and he calls us healed, we better walk in that anointing, because otherwise it's nocebo for the rest of our life. No, thank you.
And it's like we get stuck. We get stuck in
Yes.
those lies that are stuck in our heart through therapy, because I spent my fair share of time on the therapist chair. And I'm such a like a, I don't know, I'm just like, let's get this done. Let's
Yeah.
not grow.
Give me the 1, 2, 3. I will do it and we'll be good.
Just tear the Band-Aid off, because I want to get this better, and don't hesitate. But I know retraining your brain had to have been a huge part of that.
It
And
was
so,
massive. And no one teaches you how to do that, especially as someone who's being raised up in the culture that we did before and the generation of our parents. Everything was about hiding, putting on the mask and putting on your Sunday best and sweeping under the rug and don't talk about conflict. And because I said so. And so you never even got to ask questions, let alone sit in a space of shame and somebody say, actually, no, Tamra, this is not who you are. This is who you are. And it's okay that you're walking through this. I never had that. So I resonate with this so much.
so tell me now your healing journey and how this translates into how you help entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I talk in the book specifically around the mind, body, spirit, which I know you do as well in your work. It's so critical that people know we are not separate entities. As the Lord relished in my heart the newness of taking this entrepreneurial experience of hustle and shifting it into how these people, creative nature, innovative spirit, bring it into the marketplace to serve people, I was able to recognize that you cannot build a business just for the sake of building. You can't share a message just for the sake of sharing a message. There's so much more to the rooting system of what that means. A lot of it became that uprooting before I ever could replant. And that takes a lot of time. People, like you said, don't want to waste time. They feel like they're just sitting around doing nothing. They're in the waiting, as some people say, specifically in our Christian culture. They're like, oh, I'm just waiting on the Lord. Waiting is active and the Lord is always moving. So waiting on the Lord is actually waiting with the Lord and seeing him move consistently throughout that waiting period. In this last season, I've had so much waiting where I had to wait for a date to come before I would have an understanding of what would happen, or I had to wait for a key to unlock for new access to something that God was going to give me later. And it was such a tumultuous time. And at the same time, the undoing of what was actively happening in my life. If I didn't take note, I would have missed it. I'm telling you right now, don't miss in your waiting what is happening, because there's a lot happening in the spiritual realm, even if you don't see it in the physical. God gave me such a cool experience of seeing things happen in the physical while they were also happening in the spiritual realm. This is constantly going to happen for you as well if your eyes are open to see. I encourage you to stay rooted in the word. It's going to be revealed to you literally what's going to happen in real time, even that day or in the coming weeks. And to have people around you that can remind you, hey, you are different than you were yesterday. You were different than you were last season. And so when I walk people through this experience of becoming a movement maker as a messenger, it's saying today your message is going to land like this. In a season, your message is going to shift. I can still stand completely intact with the always becoming conversation because it's something that evolves with me. It's not old news. It's the news that allowed me to proclaim the good news. So it's always going to be good. And I think that's when people are building something, it's like, what will stand the test of time? What will, no matter what happens, COVID happened in the middle of this business build. COVID blessed me and my family so much because God told me where to go and I had already said yes. So as you are navigating, what do I do or how do I do this from what God has purposed me and called me to do, it's recognizing that the real-time work, even when you feel like you're not actually putting your hand to the plow, it might be happening beneath the soil. And that's the most important work all of us could do.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, having your roots firmly planted, that's what's going to nourish you
Right.
long run. We have this roots and fruits analogy in
Yes.
the functional medicine realm. If your roots are being filled with chemical laced
Toxins,
processed
yeah.
food and you're not giving your body what it needs, the rest, the water, the exercise, the movement, you're not like the Bible also talks about being a tree planted by streams of water. If you're not rooted in the source, your leaves are going to wither. You're not
Yes.
going to be able to produce the fruit.
As I went through the mind and body piece, we talked about the purity side of it, but even my physical being, I've always been fairly fit. I was a gymnast for 16 years, and my dad was the original Gold's Gym rat. Working out was just a part of my life. It was actually our punishment when we were little. It was raining, run laps. It was like corporal punishment, trial by that. That was how I did it. We had to keep our hands up in the corner for a long time. Don't call CPS. We're already grown, raised, and happy children on the other side. But man, it was tough. So when I walk through this, like, oh my gosh, my body composition is changing in this season. Even as a woman now, I don't speak perimenopausal over myself because I'm not quite there, but I have a lot of friends in that space. And there's a lot that we navigate as women that men can't comprehend. And if we don't understand the root and what's happening in the spiritual realm, we can break things off of us simply by understanding the deep-rooted elements of not just your life, but society at large. And so naturally, we have toxins and things that we consume that our parents never had to worry about. The plastics in our clothes, the red dyes, any color dyes that are inside of our foods and our products, the chemicals inside of our makeup, right? There are so many layers that as a body, we have to be aware of. Otherwise, we're walking blind and we're allowing big pharma, all these other places that are ultimately rooted in money, that's their greed, that's their God, to distract and destroy us in the process. But the distraction, again, it looks shiny, but is it good for you? It looks shiny, but what's the fruit on the other side of you investing in that? Because our money, I think that's a huge conversation as entrepreneurs, where we steward and invest our money really matters, not just for the fruit of what's going to come out, but who are you fueling with your money? Is your money going to products or to companies or to industries that are actually in the back door helping the sex trafficking industry, helping the porn industry? Like, that is real. That's a real conversation. And you have to go down those rabbit holes in order to discover the truth.
Yeah, there's so many layers to it. And in part with my newer book, The Blessed Body, I talk about this. I talk
Yes.
about like, hey, we need to take the blinders off and just be educated. We've been just like the shiny object, like the marketing, like they can sell you just about anything. They'll send you all kinds of messages throughout the day. We can so easily be sucked in and think, well, it's just this easy button. Like, oh, I'm just going to do this biohacking thing, right?
Totally.
And some of these things, I'm just like, oh, Lord, what is it saying about our bodies that we have to trick them to do stuff that we think they should do instead of being like, Lord, I'm depending on you and I'm going to do things your way
Yeah.
and take care of my temple and be a good steward of that instead of feeling like I got to do this shot or this pill or this crazy apparatus. Like I have, like I'm a kind of a geek. And so I've like one of my favorite shows is The Hidden Killers of the Victorian Home. They have this glut of all these products that hit the market, and these Victorians, they wanted to be in fashion, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
like have the newest and the best and all this stuff. The stuff that they did was crazy. They had blue, red, and yellow, like everything, those rich, deep colors, right?
Yeah.
Nobody could figure out how to make a deep green. Finally, somebody came out with a deep green, and then everybody had to have the carpets, tapestries, the paints, everything had to be green. Come to find out, people started getting really sick. There were all these newspaper articles like baby chews on wallpaper and dyes, and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
It was arsenic. They used arsenic to make the color green. Who knew, right?
Wow.
And they were poisoning
Wow.
themselves. That's just one example. Like it's on.
Crazy though. And it's literally what the problem is, there's no access to some of the information the way we should rightfully have access. And we're blanketed by the pretty, the marketable, the this'll work things. And it says biblically, without knowledge, my people will perish. So having podcasts like this, writing the books, being the messenger that so many of us are meant to be, that is the way to healing. That is the way to have access to a free life. And I think around our body, like the beauty industry is a big conversation for that. The fashion industry, huge conversation for that. There's been all that stuff that's come out about some of those clothing product lines that are super cheap that we all love to get here in America, like, and what's actually happening, the workers there and the child labor that's taking place. It is slavery, and we're enforcing it by putting our money there because it's fast and it's cheap. Pretty much anything that's fast and cheap is no go. It's no bueno. And so I've learned that even from a business perspective, the fast and cheap alternative, talk about all the AI things that are coming out. People are doing that in the publishing industry. The fast and cheap way is just put on ChatGPT and then self-publish it and watch the lies and the tumultuous experiences that are going to happen on the other side because it's not rooted in truth.
Yeah. It's crazy. And one of the things that I'm seeing and my passion is we need to be clear-minded so that we can pray. A
Yeah.
lot of these fragrances and these chemicals that are in our food and products we buy, like the flame retardants and the anti-wrinkle, Scotch Guard, all that stuff is accumulative
Yeah.
and it leads to that brain fog. They're neurotoxins.
Yep.
If we just sit back like, well, everything's going to make you die some way, people have that
That
attitude.
is what people say. That is 100%. That's literally a conversation I just had.
Yeah. And it's like, well, everything causes cancer, so why bother? Well, no, let's be proactive. Let's start where we are.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
And it will take finances. I hope that this shifts eventually, especially as people come back into bartering and trading for goods. I think that's going to happen more and more as we continue to evolve as a society. It's like a revolve, but it's an evolve at the same time. Can we get products in our hands, in our homes for our children's sake? Knowing this, you can't unknow something, right? Like once you know it, the conversation that I was like, I just had, my sister and mom were over and I ran out of dish soap and I thought I was using my friend's homemade dish soap. And my daughter's like, that's not dish soap, that's hand soap. I'm like, how do you know that? And she was like, because Miss Candace told me. And I was like, oh, well, we've been using this homemade dish soap, it's fine. And my sister's like, you have Dawn soap in the garage. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a chemical. I put that on my weeds to kill them. And she's like, it's dish soap. It's a huge gallon of dish soap. And yeah, but it's a chemical. And she's like, you just put your grapes for the beach inside a plastic baggie for your children. So aren't we all, it was the same exact conversation. Are we all going to die? And I'm like, come on. I'm like, I do one thing at a time. I've got healthy dish soap and I have no chemical things in my hair products anymore. I'm not dyeing my hair. It's one thing at a time, but it's the knowledge. I can't unknow that Dawn soap is literally killing people. I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like, we can be overwhelmed and stressed, like, oh my gosh, everything's going to kill me. Right.
Yes.
Or my kids. And, it's like, okay, Lord, you give us the spirit of peace,
Yes.
not the spirit of fear. And we are going to walk through this. That's obviously partly what I do with my clients too, is like, okay, how do we unpack this? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Interestingly, in the midst of some of the things that I've alluded to in my marital situation, early last year, I think it was April, May timeframe, I went in for my first time getting blood work. My husband and I were both like, we're getting older, let's do some blood work. I'm like, well, I don't really need anything, but it would be interesting. Sure, I'll go in. So I go in and I'm seeing like a homeopathic doctor and she starts asking me questions. At the beginning, she's like, so why are you here? And I told her, I don't really have any problems. I feel like I'm really healthy. And every time she asked me a question, her response was like, oh. And I'm like, how many more frequencies of oh can you say? I'm like, what is happening over there as you're taking all these notes down about me? And she's like, these are really concerning. I was like, well, I guess I've never put them all on top of each other. They've always been separate entities in my life. I've had scoliosis since I was in middle school, so I just always saw a chiropractor. My libido has been down, but that's because we have things going on in our marriage. I guess I have a little bit of hair loss, but that's no big deal. Just because I'm getting older and all my aunts have hair loss. They all have really thin hair. And I just started one after another. And I ended up getting the blood work back and it said that I had Hashimoto's. I was really defeated by that, Kathryn, because like I said, I've always been healthy. So I've never taken medicines. I've never done any of that. And so I was really shocked by this and adrenal cortisol fatigue, which to most people who know me is not shocking. And so I literally had to, as you would say, put all this paperwork in front of you and be like, okay, what can we address little by little? The first thing that they addressed was my sleep. And though I thought I slept well, I always went to bed by like 9:30 at night. I was up at like 3 a.m. every single day. Whether or not I got out of bed was until 4:30. And honestly, I took that as almost like a badge of honor, which is so silly, the things that we ascribe to as success. And I wasn't doing it intentionally, but I'm like, oh yeah, I wake up, I have a whole day before all these people and my business is doing this because I do it before my kids wake up and I'm still a really present mom. And I was literally gloating over the fact that my whole body was shutting down while my business was thriving, or my Bible time. No offense to the Bible, I love my Bible time. I just do it in a time that makes sense and that I've gotten rest first. And then the Lord can duplicate and multiply time, all capacities when you rest. So funny, I just thought I'd share vulnerably on some things that I've been walking through. And so as I'm going through, not dyeing my hair and not doing all these things and not drinking or whatever, it's not out of a religiosity, it's out of a desire to live freely, and that we have access to that freedom. And obviously his name is Jesus, and it's the closer I get in proximity to Christ, the less I want to be like the world, the less I want to look like the world, and the less I want to run like the world. And so I've kind of gotten to this place, I'm like, wash my hands of that thing or that store or those things, because it's just not needed.
And you touched on something that when you spend your time in the Word, God multiplies your time. In my practice, I've seen when you prioritize, when you seek first his kingdom and his way of doing and being right, all these things will be added to you as well. And it's like the things that he's talking about, not worrying about, is like how you look.
Yes.
And what
People take an hour to get ready, but they can't get the word in.
When we do things God's way, there's a blessing on that, right? And he gives you what I'd call the divine edge. It's not something that you have to work harder or hustle more or do all these biohacking things. No, it's resting. And we're back to our beginning. When you rest in him, when you seek him first, and not just what he's got in his hand, but really know him.
That's a good word.
And that peace, that multiplies your, when your nervous system is at rest, right? That's when you find healing. Studies are showing it. It doesn't matter how good your diet is, how well you're exercising, if you're sleeping well, whatever. If your nervous system is not at rest, then your body will not heal. It won't be healthy,
Attacking itself. That's what hypothyroidism is.
Yeah.
It's literally
It's that autoimmune. And that's the root of all disease, inflammation, right?
Yep.
And that comes from cortisol being high.
Yep.
It's just so amazing to me that the Lord is like, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. And it's like that great exchange that he is inviting us into. And we can continue to hustle. And he's like, I'll let you do it on your own. It's not going to be easy. I'll let you do it. I'll be with you. But if once you rest in him, not only does your cortisol level come down and your body begins to heal and you lose those extra pounds because your cortisol is not crazy high. It's not leading to insulin resistance. You're not packing on the pounds. Your body hangs on to that because it doesn't feel safe. And when you release that, when you rest in that, that's where the true healing happens. Inside out.
Thinking of my mom, she had gone through a really tumultuous decade. And in that time frame, she didn't know the Lord, but she was seeking because she's like, I just need some solution. Something has to give. And I was already walking with the Lord very intimately. And so she's like, I guess I'll try this on for size, right? Like nothing else seems to be working. And she went to a couple of my women's retreats, and she traces the through line of what Jesus did in her life just by simply coming and taking 3 days of rest with strangers, of women, and really reflecting on her life and what gifts she had, what blessings were there, and also what things could be shifted or changed, or that there was already a solution to, but she hadn't seen because she was moving so quickly. Even though a lot in her life was going what most people would say really wrong, when she gave her life to the Lord and I was able to baptize her at the 4th retreat that she had attended, she literally, Kathryn, anti-aged a decade. Like 10 years fell off my mom, off of her face, off of her body, off of her skin. It was unbelievable. Every single person, like, holy cow. And she has this way of deflection where just kind of giggles it off because she's been telling that she's my sister my whole life. Everyone's like, she looks so young. But it was next level, to the point that I was like, okay, what's happening here? I'm not comfortable with this. I'm definitely aging, and she is definitely anti-aging. And I always use that as my metric to like, this is what genes are about. It's so much less about what has been given to you genetically or epigenetically, and more so about what the holy DNA of Christ can do in our bloodstream. And He's the healer. And that alone has been a testimony that I'll never forget as I get older. I've never tried a filler. I've never tried a Botox. One, because I know they're addictive and it's a suppression tactic. And two, they don't have enough longevity of historical data to know what that actually is going to do. We see some famous people who have been doing it for a very long time before it was out on the market. And you're like, what happened to their face? I don't want to look like that. I want to age gracefully. I want my smile lines to be indicative of the smiles and laughter that I've had. Leaning into the Lord, He is amazing in the rejuvenation qualities of what He'll do, even for our skin and body.
One of the verses that I declare over my life every day is from Psalm 103, where it talks about He beautifies, dignifies, and crowns me with loving kindness and tender mercy. He renews my youth like the eagle. I am strong, overcoming, and soaring. That's powerful. And I
Yes.
believe that He does. When you are walking in alignment, like you talk about, when you're aligned with the way that God has designed you to thrive and to live and to shine His light, man, that's so attractive.
It's like the Moses moment, right? Where he comes down off the mountain and people had to veil his face because of the radiance that he had been with Christ.
Yeah,
Like, that's how I want to live. I want
me
people to be
too.
like, whoa, how radiant is she? And that literally is what my mom looked like for a while. I was like, Mom, like you are just glowing. Her eye color changed. I mean, it was wild.
Wow.
So it's possible for all of you looking out there for the right beautify app or filter. Let Jesus filter you and watch what happens. That's the
Yes.
new movement, the beyond blessed that we need to walk in.
Yes, yes, I love that. It's been so awesome to catch up with you. We
Agreed.
need to do
Agreed.
this more often.
I know. I loved it so much. I've been so proud watching it all happen while resting. And I'm so
Yes.
grateful. This is literally one of my first podcasts after being on over 1,000 over the last 7 years. I couldn't wait to get started again. I've had a bunch of different conversations, and I feel like the Lord was really on this conversation. I'm so excited for it to bless those who listen. And I hope that they just get more attuned and aligned in all facets of their being, mind, body, and spirit.
Thank you so much. My listeners get a hold of you, find out more about you. How is that possible?
I hang out most on Instagram, so you can go to Tamra Andress on Instagram or even Fit Press, which is where you're connected through our publishing house. I love to get in the DMs, and so it is me. There is an auto thing going on there business wise, but if you send me a DM, I'm going to respond. I look forward to connecting with your community.
Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you, friend. Love you so much. That was
Love
amazing.
you too. If you've been praying for clarity, strength, and breakthrough in your body, then this book is your next step. Blessed Body isn't just another health and wellness book. It's a Holy Spirit guided blueprint to restore your gut health, renew your mind, align your body with your calling. You'll learn the same system that helped me lose 70 pounds, heal my body, and reclaim my purpose. You'll get all the exact tools and the biblical insight that my clients spend thousands to get, all for just $4.99. Click the link below, grab your copy, start reading and healing today.